Hey y'all, it's Kengan, and today I'm going to be reading episode 1 of Kengan Ashura. And I gotta say, the writing in this is actually pretty nice. Because I love how already its premise sets itself up to have a lot of action set pieces. Because essentially, here's the premise. You got one of our main characters, Yamashita, walking in a dark alley. Then one day he sees this guy called Toki fight this muscular ass dude. And he just wrecks his muscular ass dude. And then you have this Yamashita who just have like the most epic fucking monologues. And then I like how when the fight scene is over, they ask each other's names. And then it transitions and you kind of see how the life of Tokita is kind of shit. Where it is, not Tokita, I mean Yamashita's shit. Where it shows you that his son really didn't graduate from high school. He dropped out. Then on top of that, the boss of Yamashita treats him like shit. And it kind of makes you feel sorry for him, and it kind of makes you want to root for him. So I like how as the story progressed, you root for Yamashita, and then when you get introduced to Tokita, it also makes you instantly want to root for him too. Like for example, after Yamashita hears the story about how the Nogi Corporation, some head guy, actually one of his ancestors was part of this merchant group, because in the past there was this group of merchants that were in conflict with each other, and in order to reduce the violence, the emperor in that era, in like the 1700s, suggested they all have a organized fight. So these merchants pretty much called upon these fighters to fight for them in order to reduce the violence levels, and that's how martial arts were born. Like, already off the bat, this series does a great amount of world building, giving you, at the very least, understanding as to why there's fighting going on, because it's a way of resolving conflict and controlling of violence, that the violence doesn't go into the chaos category. So I do like that bit of story explanation in this episode, because it all came out through natural dialogue while keeping the cards at its chest too, because it even makes you wonder, why in the hell was Yamashita hired to like be the caretaker of Tokita, because even the assistant of the Nogi Corporation didn't even tell her details. So this episode did a good job of doing role building and also giving you some mystery juice for any of the mystery fans that want to stick with the series towards the end. And then, in addition to that, throughout this episode, there was hilarious dialogue dispersed. Like whenever Tokita says something to Yamashita would relate it of like being in a life and death situation. And that shit was fucking hilarious too. So I did like that. And it actually did a good way of showing off the strength of characters. Like there was a sequence where Yamashita was going to check upon Tokita. And then he sees Tokita in blood. And he's worried that he might have injured himself, but no, he actually beat the living shit up like a gigantic boar. And he's like, "This boar is my food." And then the way he just said that, matter of fact, and then you have Yamashita just exaggerate the shit, saying shit like, "Oh man," and this is how things are done in everyday life, where people are just eating animals at a slaughter. And he says it so dramatically, it just makes the dialogue really, really hilarious, while simultaneously, aside from getting comedy, you get a nice power base of how strong Tokita is, because he took a gigantic ass boar with his bare arms. I was like, damn. You didn't see the feat happen on screen, but you see the boar on the ground. So I do love that, and I love how it ends in a cliffhanger where Tokita's about to take on this pretty strong kickboxer. So from a story standpoint, I like it. It explains this premise, because Tokita's going to fight for the Nogi group, and he's going to be their contestant because he beat up the Nogi group's original fighter. But it ended up going well for the Nogi group because Tokita's a way stronger fighter. So we got the premise of this show for the most part, where there's going to be all these fights. And two, it gives you an explanation as to why the fights are going to occur. So I do like that. And additionally, this episode did well from a character standpoint, because for one, it makes you kind of want to root for Yamashita because you see, for the most part, his life is sad. Like his wife left 10 years ago. He has to take care of his son where he hasn't even seen his face for 3 years. I was just like, how the fuck is this shit possible? And like shit like that, where it's got some dark humor into it. And I like it. It makes the character sympathetic. And then it also makes you like Tokita. Like, aside from just killing the fuck out of his food that he eats, you also kind of like him too because he's the type of guy that doesn't underestimate his opponent, because when you have Yamashita ask his name, Tokita straight up saying, do you want to fight? And he had like a serious face, which gives you the characterization of no matter what the body structure is, if someone looks super muscular or small, Tokita's not going to underestimate the person. So I do like that bit of characterization too. So I thought from the character standpoint, this episode was nice. And now the only weakness though is the animation and art. It's just like, oh, what the hell is this? Because since the premise is it's going to have a lot of fights, and then in the previews you get fights, but they don't even look that good. Which is a shame because this year there have been a lot of well-animated series of action like Granbelm, Modao Sushi, Cannon Busters, Kimetsu no Yaiba, like all these series. Oh, and Sound Figure XP, all these series with like visual muscle that makes their visuals just pop out. It's like, damn, this is hella fucking enjoyable. And if you want me to even go further, in the 80s there was Ashura no Joe, and that series had some really fucking great looking fight scenes. Here the fight scenes is like, it's choppy and awkward looking, and that kind of hampered my enjoyment about this episode, because whenever I saw the CG during the fight sequences, while from a narrative standpoint they were nice, from a visual standpoint it was kind of lagging, and there were even instances where there was a panning shot of the arms of Tokita, and at times it looked like the muscle wasn't properly drawn. It just looked like a freaking bone. So there were moments like that make the CG kind of awkward looking, or when a character's trying to move and it's a 3D model, it just looks a bit awkward looking. Whenever anything is 2D, it looks nice. But that's in the rare moments where something is hand-drawn. So the visual quality does reduce any potential enjoyment I could have with this. And same with the art, which it's making me consider, after watching this episode, I might just take up the manga of this instead. Because I have heard this is based off of manga. And the preview didn't look so hot either when it comes from an action standpoint. So there are things like that. Because since this isn't going to be an action-based series, if the action doesn't look good, then what the hell is the point, right? That'd be like watching a boxing match and watching it in like the shittiest quality. That's like having an HDTV and watching like an MMA or a boxing match and watching it in 240p. It's just, no. So that's the only thing that hampers it. But of a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being abysmal and 10 being exceptional and 5 being average, I thought this was at the very least average, of 5 out of 10. If the visual quality would have been good, this would have been like a 7 or 8 out of 10 episode for me. But I don't think it was bad though. I mean, I'll probably follow the series on my own time, probably. Watch a episode or two just to see how it stacks up on my own time. But I don't think it was awful, and at least this intrigued me enough to consider reading the manga. At least a few chapters, but yeah. These are my thoughts, y'all. It did have some nice dialogue, but there were a few things in this episode that kind of worried me. And that's why I didn't think it was great. But it wasn't bad, though. I thought it was alright. And for any of y'all that just want to see a series with, like, action and y'all don't mind CG animation that looks stiff at times, then I guess it could be a fun watch. I mean, at least the main characters are likable. So anyways, y'all, these are my thoughts on Kengan Ashura Episode 1. Be sure to comment on your thoughts on the episode in the comment section below. rate the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later if you come back for more. Alright, y'all, have a great and safe day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.